Hello, everybody. Welcome to an edition of Millennials, the Philly Portal, everything else with Jay. It's kind of all of the worlds combined today. We haven't done a Philly Portal episode in a while, so Sterling, it's good to be back with you to do another one on something I didn't think that we would be covering, which is LeBron James has chosen the Sixers, which has obviously been probably, I would say, definitely the biggest news story for Philadelphia in the summer. Definitely the biggest sports news story, which is not. There was the World Cup. There was a lot of other things going on. The Major League Baseball All Star Game, the PGA Championship. Um, None of those rises to quite the level of this. So, yeah, why don't we just start? Like, where were you, or what do you remember about when you heard the news?
Yeah. Um, so I'm trying to think back. It like happened like in the middle of the day, and I remember I couldn't believe it. Like you just can't. Like I remember seeing everything up into it, into the decision. I saw him at like the Fanatics, talking about he was saying trust the process. It felt like there was a lot of stuff going around where it's like, it's definitely not gonna be Philly. And and then when it was just like in the middle of the day. I was in my room and I just had to talk. I told everybody. I was like, yeah. He was like, have you seen? Have you seen? It was like I don't know. You're Paul Revere. You're telling you're going through the town. Yeah, like it's like we got LeBron. We got LeBron. We got LeBron.
Yeah, I was back home. I think I had just gotten back from vacation the night before, so I had been away at Virginia Beach for a week, and I woke up, and it was one of those things, like, I wasn't on my phone, but then you looked. I logged onto Twitter or whatever, and there was, like, a bunch of posts, and then you do the kinda thing of like, "Well, wait, what?" And you go and you look, and you see that Shams has posted this and everything, and then you see all the kind of, discourse that's swirling around, and then, you turn on, like, sports radio in Philly is really funny, and I will say this, like, it'd be an interesting thing to talk about, the racial dynamics around different sports in the cities, like, in the city, like, the Sixers are not the favorite team of Philadelphia usually. Like, the Eagles are obviously, like, the first and foremost, but after the Eagles, then it kind of breaks down. Like, some people are really big Phillies fans. Like, everybody kind of roots for all the Philly teams, but I know a lot of people who are big Phillies fans but don't really follow the Sixers, right? And vice versa. And that's probably the case in pretty much every city, that there's, like, some of that going on, and then there's, like, the hockey fans, but like, the crowds at different sports are also very different racially, right? Like, when you go to different types of games. So my perception of a lot of Philly sports radio is that they really don't want to talk about the Sixers most of the time. But when this broke, right, it's like, oh wow, and obviously it came on the heels of the Jalen Brown thing,
Yeah.
which I know we'll talk about as well. But that was a very big deal, the trade, especially the Sixers getting Jalen Brown for just Paul George, who they were trying to get rid of really anyway,
Yeah.
and a couple of first round picks. But then, you add LeBron. And I mean, we'll get into some of the discourse around this, because I like, for just to give folks an outline of kind of like some of the things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about some of the discourse. We're going to talk about the way that Philadelphia is kind of nationally represented in media quite often, and how this is kind of exposed. Like, I feel like exposed it in a way that maybe is a little bit unusual, because there's this whole dynamic of like, well, wait, like, why would LeBron choose Philly, right? That then becomes, for I think those of us who live here, like, what the fuck's wrong with Philly? Like, like why can't he choose Philly? So there's that thing I think to discuss, but there's also I think an interesting conversation to kind of have about what is the political economic impact of a player like LeBron, who is um, not just a basketball player, right? Like he's a Fortune 500 company, kind of like on his own, like this kind of thing. What does it mean? What industries does it actually impact, and which ones doesn't it? And I also think there's a story here too, where in most of the places he's gone, I actually looked into this, it hasn't raised like prices of housing and things like that. But you also have to figure like, well, that was LA, Miami, and then Cleveland, which he already was kind of from. So like that, I do think there's a different dynamic to talk about with Philly that we can get into, especially because also part of this discourse has become, well, he's coming to Philly, but he's gonna live in New York, right? Which we'll table that. There's a whole discussion to have there. But I think that also in some ways puts on blast for people who didn't know that, like, there are plenty of people who work in Philly and live in New York and vice versa. Usually it's the other way around. Usually people who live in Philly and work in New York. But Philly is a low key like commuter city to other places, and certainly the surrounding area. But so we'll talk about kind of all of those things. But obviously, when he came, I know I had just gotten back, and I remember texting and trying to call my dad, and couldn't get him. And then he picked up the phone, or he called me back later. He started talking about a bunch of other stuff. This is my father. He's talking about the weather. He's talking about, the heat in Philly, and like, because he watches not only my father used to sail at a certain point. My whole family has a very weird fucking fascination with weather, right? And so
Okay.
he's like, he monitors the weather in my zip code, and he'll be like, "Hey, you have a flood watch." I'm like, "I know, Dad." Like, so it's like to that level. So he's on like one of those conversations, and I'm like, "So you haven't heard, And he's like, "No, what happened?" And we talk about basketball all the time. And
Yeah.
I was like,
My,
"LeBron,
my
Philly."
my uncle does the same
Uh,
thing. My uncle.
yeah.
My, yeah, yeah. My uncle
So
um just uh he's the person that like took me to my first Sixers game in like I forget how I was, probably 10 years old. We had Sean Bradley, who was 7'6". Had a little picture right next to him. That was back in the old days when we didn't win anything. Our team was really bad. But yeah, I don't know. Our family were Sixers fans. My uncle would, yeah, he texted me about LeBron too, so he was excited. I feel like my whole family was excited. I felt really. I did just want to go back really quick around this thing around like whether the Eagles are more important or the Sixers, and I don't know why that is, but it's very obviously the Eagles, and you said obviously the Eagles, right? And because I was just at a like student orientation yesterday, and they were going back and forth. They're like Eagles or Sixers, and some people put up the Sixers, but no, everybody in the auditorium, adult and child, were like Eagles. So like it's like that's just how it is around here.
I mean, a good example of it is like at my kids' schools, right? Like they'll have like every Friday is like wear green for Eagles. Like it's like, it's in the culture in a way that like the Sixers are not. I
No,
mean, it will be very interesting now because I think there are also different periods. I mean, I have one of my like Allen Iverson shirt behind me. I mean, like I wasn't here during the Iverson era for the most part. I was here like one summer during it, but like, mostly not here in that period of time. And the Sixers were like a way bigger deal when he was. And there's like a certain way that he connects, not bigger than the Eagles necessarily. I think football in
yeah,
general in America is just like there's a national like deep love for the sport of
or
American football
disease.
th-
But yeah,
that just transcends, and I don't claim to understand it. I think it's maybe our gladiator, like, violence, like, culture or something like that, that this just embodies something that, you know, I don't know, but it's just way bigger nationally. Um, but yeah, I don't know. That just is that piece. I don't know what else I wanted to say about that, but that's okay. But I do think that LeBron and this particular whole lineup of the Sixers that they have now will definitely raise it to a level that it hasn't been since the Iverson era, and probably maybe ever, like maybe back to like Julius Erving days. I don't know what those were like, that kind of stuff. But obviously they won a championship in that period in the early 80s. But yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. And one of the things, I guess, let's go to the question first before we talk about some of the discourse
Okay.
of this discussion of why he would choose the Sixers. And just from like basketball wise, right? Did this, like, it didn't surprise me at all as a basketball choice. Like, I know Sixers fans were very like, we were out recruiting and all of this kind of stuff. And I should also say one other reaction that's quite funny is that, as everybody knows, I am not a real Sixers fan. Like, I have lived here for, 11 years, and I do root for the Sixers in the Eastern Conference against everybody except for when they play my Zionist occupied Blazers. But like, that I grew up in Oregon, and so they were the only team, and so I grew up a Blazers fan. And my response of excitement of LeBron coming to the Sixers has deeply bothered my 8-year-old, who just goes around. He's like, "You're not a real Sixers fan." He's like, you can't root for them now. You can't buy a LeBron shirt. Like, what do you take that hat off? Like, because
I love it.
he'd be like, "You're not even from here." And that's been really funny. And I have to go back into like, well, when I used to have a job, I would get like partial season tickets, and I had because I've been going to Sixers games pretty regularly since like 2010.
Yeah.
But it's funny because he knows, and he's right. Like, because a lot of times when I've taken him to games, it's been Blazers versus the Sixers, and I'm rooting for the other team, and he's like livid with me and so happy when my team loses. And
I will say that Philadelphia has kind of this place in America, kind of like as a one-time important city, maybe the largest at one time, sometimes the capital, but it's like seems to be like always on the decline, or like just below the like San Francisco's, Miami's, New York's, right? So it's always, but it has like this historic, right? It's like one of the original six. It's of hockey. It's like, uh, and we have like the Philadelphia Warriors. It's like we have old teams, Philadelphia Eagles from like the 30s, right? So there's such like this sense of like these teams are here to stay. You've got like a rabid fan base that like is like really solid. There's stuff like that like it's really hard to like have. I don't know. I guess some of these old Eastern cities, that's just how it is. Like Detroit, Cleveland, it's like these New York. I mean, DC, Baltimore, kind of, right? But like Philly doesn't. They're not going to go. I think we'd have a riot if any. We might kill the owner. Well, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say that.
You're saying if they left?
If they left, yeah.
It wouldn't happen.
They can't.
It wouldn't happen. I mean, this is why some of this discourse is like, I mean, we can get into that for a long time, and somebody referenced this actually when I brought it up on another live, that for many years Philadelphia was called the poorest city in the United States. First of all, like, there's some important caveats to that, which are that it was the poorest of the top 10 largest cities. Yeah. So it's not like there is a shitload of poverty. You and I both know that. And it's a large segment of the Philadelphia population that is working class or below working class, or lives at or below the poverty line. but it's not the it's definitely not the poorest city that I've ever been to, and there are plenty of places that are much more destitute than Philly is on the whole. But that caveat of being one of the largest and also having so it maybe in like total terms, it might have had the most poor people for a long time because it's also a city of like 1.7 million and much larger surrounding area. Houston is the city that passed it, which I didn't know that, as now the poorest city in the top 10. So there's that angle of it. Um, and like you said, I mean, I think Baltimore and Philly have a lot of similarities in certain ways as like, you know,
Love Baltimore. Yeah.
yeah, like white people are minority in these cities, right? They're close to other cities in like DC and New York that have more rich people, and there's that kind of relationship. People commute from one to the other and things like that. um but and they have that kind of like working class character to them and are thought of in those terms.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Detroit, I think, is another good example. Cleveland, I've never been to Cleveland, so I don't really know like what that much about what Cleveland is like. But it's also like, I don't know, there is a difference to me between Midwestern and East Coast cities to some degree. And that was also one of the things. I mean, I get that LeBron, at first was drafted by Cleveland. I get he's from Akron, Ohio, and I get
Mhm.
that he came back there. And so like that does make some sense. But this is part of the thing too for me that was so weird about some of the national discourse is I'm like, this guy has played in Cleveland for more years than any other city. Like,
Yeah.
why is Philly hard to believe? Like, what are we talking about? Just because he chose Miami and LA a couple of times? Like, and I get that Philly doesn't have, like if he wants to do his film career or he wants to do his, whatever, like it's not the same kind of business hub that LA is. But obviously, and we could talk about that too. I mean, LA now has almost an all-white basketball team, which is really funny.
It's just so ridiculous. Awesome
um,
news. Oh my God.
yeah, I mean, I just when I like their whole starting lineup could be white guys this year. Like that's a possibility. They have
Boston what?
Luca, Kessler, Mamushkeli or whatever, Mamushkavili. I don't remember how you pronounce that guy's name. Then you have Reeves, and I don't know whether they're Luravia or somebody else, right?
Yeah.
But like um, and so yeah, I mean, and clearly it was Luca's team. So to me, with the choices, I had said this all along to people I would talk to about it. I was like, look, if it depends on what kind of decision he wants to make, right? If he just wants to go on the retirement, go live back in Akron and his mansion there, and it, finish out his career for the Cavs, like nobody would be mad at that. You know what I mean? Like that's a nice story and makes sense. Clearly he wasn't going to stay with the Lakers. He made that clear. The Golden State thing would have been fun to see him playing with Steph Curry and Draymond. A lot of people didn't like that because of the rivalry that they had in those years when they were going against each other in the championship. But I was like, Cleveland is not going to, there's no chance that Cleveland wins a championship. Like, I'm sorry, Cavs fans, but like, even if you put LeBron on that team,
No.
it like, unless they're getting rid of James Harden, who does not defend at all. And I know you're a longtime James Harden apologist. So.
Yes. Yes. I have my Harden shirt. I took it off and put up my LeBron shirt, but like I love James Harden. Yeah. He cannot win a championship. I know that.
No.
I've experienced it. I've rooted for it. I still love him. We're gonna get his wine. I love his wine. I love the strip clubs. He changes the economy. I wish he went to cheerleaders here more, but he kept going back to Atlanta and Houston. But like, whatever. It's all right.
Um, and I think the Warriors too, like it's just it would be too old, and they're
Yeah,
not close enough.
yeah,
I don't know whether this will work in the sense that the Sixers will necessarily win a championship with
yeah,
him, but I think among the options that he had, it gives him the best chance. There's a lot of discussion about Embiid and whether, of course, he can be healthy, which he typically never is come playoff time and all of that kind of stuff. But some of that I feel like is a little bit overstated. Like if they do need a backup center, probably that's better than what they have currently.
of 40, yeah.
But
No,
yeah, but beyond that, like you have Jalen Brown, you have LeBron, you have Maxi, you have Edgecombe. Like
yeah,
they can win a lot of games, even with LeBron and Embiid just sitting and just Maxi and Edgecombe and
yeah.
Jalen Brown carrying them. I mean, Jalen
I
Brown
think,
carried the Celtics last year. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
I think that there was a thing he probably saw too with Jalen Brunson winning it for the Knicks, and like you're Jalen Brunson's a king in that city. I mean, the kind of drought that the Sixers have been on um, is just historic since 1983, right? We've had good players, but we never just like won it, right? Um, and even here, I guess I want to throw some love to like Jalen Hurts. Like Jalen Hurts, he gets so much hate. We won the freaking Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts. You know, like for me, if he comes here and like and we get the championship, Jalen Brown, everybody, that changes everything. It's like it's not like winning. I mean, he's won in Cleveland, he's won in, but it doesn't. It would change everything for the Sixers. It would just would, and I mean, he'd be a king here forever. We love him. I'm down.
I mean, it's a hilarious thing, right? Because I remember, like, I don't even remember. There was a conversation that I had with, I think it was during our Black capitalism conversation I had with Jared Ball earlier this year. And he and I are both like diehard Michael Jordan's the GOAT and LeBron would never be that. And I'm like revising it as we speak of like, well, now he plays my team. So, or now he plays here. So, and if he could win one for the Sixers, like,
Well,
and Hiram made this point, which you're just saying too, is this legacy building, point, which is that, yeah, like bringing a title to a city that hadn't had one or won one recently. Yeah, I mean, it's been 40, some years for the Sixers. The Knicks were the original option. I'm sure that, I mean, they did say that he even tried, possibly or reached out to them to see, and they weren't interested. But the Sixers become the next best option as a sports town. And I will say, like, the Philadelphia fan base, and we'll come to that too, but there was a lot of jokes about it, about like what it means if you get Sixers fans or Philly fans involved in the GOAT debate on your side. But yeah, there's not really a better fan base, maybe the Knicks just because it's a huge city, right? But like that would help you in that pursuit if you believe that this is like a discursive, debate around who's the greatest, right?
can I just say something real quick though, especially as you mentioned like being with the Sixers in the last like I don't know. I'm gonna go since like 2013, like when the process started. I will say, Sixers fans have been on this journey. We committed to losing for I don't know how many years, like 5 years straight. We're just like I went to those games. I've never seen Embiid play. I have gone to many games. I've never gone to a game where Embiid played. That's wild.
Really?
No,
You've never seen
I've been to like 12 games. I've never seen him play. Never. But I don't care because we were down for it. We were like 10 in 72, like 21, and we were like, okay, we're gonna get Benson. We're gonna do this. Be in the top three. We're down for Hinkie. Maury was here. We're down for but we had so many scandals. We've had so many injuries. It's like Joel Embiid gets Bell's palsy. I don't know. Joel Embiid generally is just like I don't know. He's just a guy. He's got a body. Like he's not a leader. He's just like got the body of a majestic, you know, creature and is amazing at basketball, but he's kind of just like a quiet dude that like wants to like write in his journal, doesn't want to go see sights. go sightseeing in Paris, like with his parents. They just left him home. They left him home. I read that article that did it over the summer. They're like, yeah, he's just a quiet guy that wants to stay home, you know. But like, I don't know. We've been through a lot. I guess that's my point is that we've been through a lot, and I've been there when nobody was there, and I still love them because I knew we were waiting for this moment, Jared. This is the moment we were waiting for.
I mean, this is a kind of a confession for me, but on a personal note, I actually have often preferred when the Sixers are terrible
Yeah,
because I can afford to go to the games. Like when, like I won't be, I don't know if I'll be able to get to. I'm hoping I can go to one game this year,
yeah.
right? Like because it's gonna be like ticket prices are. It's like $400 to get into the upper deck in the first preseason game right now. Like it's
Oh no.
ridiculous. Like which is like he's not even gonna play in that game, folks.
Wow.
you know, and so that's one of the things that is the obvious impact of how he is, is that people are just like speculating, buying tickets, just hoping that he will be there, and then we'll like resell him and I guess take the loss or something like that if he's not. And I think that's one of the other interesting things is then seeing the LeBron fans become Sixers fans. That is a weird thing to watch. Like, because I also grew up in an era where I knew a couple of people who were just fans of players, but we thought those people were so weird when I was a kid. Like, what do you mean you just root for a player and you don't care if he goes from one team to another? I mean, at least I did. I was like, you pick a team, and people had different teams, right? But you stick with your team. And we used
Yeah,
to give people shit that switch teams. Like
yeah,
when I had to, I had this friend Joe who, every year he'd be like, well, Tracy McGrady's on this team now, so I'm gonna be a Magic fan or whatever. Like, what the fuck? Like, you can't do that. And yeah, I mean, so I was very, I mean, obviously I was a Blazers fan, and so I was like, this is the team of our state, and I didn't care. They were really good when I was a little kid, which probably helped me in like choosing them. But through all of the years that they've been terrible, like I still will watch, and I'll still root for them. And the same with the Sixers, like, you know, but I did like those years when the tickets were cheap and I could sit in the lower level and it was not breaking the bank at all.
yeah.
Um,
That was. I mean, it was
so
last year. I got three for under 100, and I went with two of my friends. It was great.
yeah, no, last year wasn't bad because that was the other thing is people had gotten, even though they were pretty good last year, there is a thing with Sixers fans too. And this probably happens with a lot of fan bases where it's like if you roll the same basic thing out for a few years and people are like, okay, this is a team that's going to lose either in the first or second round of the playoffs and we know it, then a lot of Philly fans will just check out of it totally. They're like, I don't care. Like why would I root for that? Which is so funny to me because I think it's also growing up in a state where we had one sport and we had one team. It was like they can get to the second round of the playoffs. Like I'm there. Like that's amazing. So, but that's even though it has been so long since the Sixers have won a championship, that's still not like the standard. Only the Eagles can get away with that in this city. The Eagles could be mediocre for a long stretch of time and everybody will still love it and go and they'll talk shit about it, but they won't check out of it.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, the Sixers themselves is just there's. I mean, because we're in Eagles Town, it is they are second always, right? So like, it's just not on a priority for people, even when they're really good. There's not priority. I honestly don't really get it, but I mean, for me, I honestly only like the Sixers when they're good. Um, I do enjoy watching. I do enjoy the drama though. I listen to like Rights to Ricky Sanchez. I care about like all the background stuff. I care about the hating Josh Harris for like trying to put an arena downtown. So there's all that stuff. Scott O'Neal, he was an executive with the Sixers, and then he went over to Live Golf. He's also like just the most detestable human being So that we've got like so many like evil people and part of the Sixers organization, connected to Apollo Global Management, and that it's like connected to University of Penn and Mark Rowan, and some people listed in the Epstein files. I'm just saying they are listed. I'm not saying what they did, but they are there. I'm just saying that. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't like him.
No, I mean, and this is, I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because obviously that's one of the things that we want to talk about is like, it's not, especially for you as an organizer in the city, and for those of us who are like politically aware or active or whatever. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the last few years had been organizing against the Sixers
Yeah,
to try to stop them from destroying Chinatown, basically, right? To build some big, ridiculous like downtown area thing and put a stadium in the middle of the city. And it was all kind of like I mean, I'm sure that they wanted to do it at some point, but at the end of the day, they were just like, okay, well, we'll just build it right where we are. And everybody was like, well, why the fuck did you do? Like, they did all kinds of stuff. They did that. Then they said, oh, we're going to move the team to Camden to try to piss off the city and make everybody like, you know, so there was all that stuff, which is just what owners do. But in that save Chinatown, from the Sixers, that whole campaign, no arena in Chinatown. Um, you all, a lot of folks, Wiley, shout out to Wiley and other people, like really did dig in to like, okay, well, like, who are these people who are making these decisions? Like, what are their connections into the different circuits of capital? Um, and, yeah, I mean, no NBA owner. This was something that at one point, for the part of why I co-did this on the Everything Else with Jay channel, is like I was talking about, and I still might do it, is like I think it would be fun to just do an episode, or like one episode per NBA, maybe any sports franchise, right? And just dig into the freaking ownership groups of
yeah,
these people and like really, really talk about them, because it's something that is so mystified and ignored within most sports discourse, in which if they talk about an owner, it's just like, oh, he's cheap, or oh, he's, he lavishly spends whatever. But the discourse is not, it's not actually about like that these are billionaires and it's private equity, and it's like these are just
yeah,
evil human beings that
yeah,
are destroying our
yeah.
world.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Because Scott O'Neil used to work for the Sixers, but then he became head of Live Golf. Live Golf, like Scott O'Neil and Josh Harris were invited to the White House. During when all the Saudi and Qatari people were invited. Right, they're on the list of like the worst people in our country. Right, it's like David Edelman like owns this student housing thing called Campbell Apartments, which has taken over much of West Philly. It's like we have people that are involved with BlackRock. Um, I mean, that's they've been kind of taking over hospitals and then like basically shutting them down and like draining them of all their resources. So that's happened in the city of Philadelphia too. So it's like I don't know, they're so connected to so many of the most vile things in the city that it's so hard to root for them. I think it kind of puts the players at a really weird place. I will say, it's like no, okay. I grew up in the '90s where we had Pat Croce. He is this cool guy. He is like wild, and I don't know. I don't know what he owned, but I don't know. It didn't seem to be that evil. Allen Iverson was like seen at the TGI Fridays. He was a man of the people. It's like we don't have that anymore. Allen Iverson is the best because he was just like he was just from VA. He's just from down in Norfolk and in Tidewater, and it's like now it's like everybody is either the son of somebody or I love him to death, but some of the people they just I guess Masai kind of picks up 14-year-old amazingly tall African guys, and they just take them and they're going to Florida, or go to high school in New York or wherever. And that's why it's very interesting that like Joel Embiid, it's like he's trying to be a man of the people. Like he would go out and like play basketball at some level, but like he's just kind of been sheltered his whole life from like when he was 14, you know, and it's kind of hard for him to even identify as like a person that like grew up that was struggling. And I don't know, we just used to have like a different type of person. I feel like Like I don't. I mean, I think I have some theory about like what makes people good, a mix of like struggle and also skill, and then also support. But like that's that I feel like that's what makes people French, like the soccer team's good. It's like you got people from the working San Luis of Paris, and they're the best people in the world. Best soccer players in the world because they know a little struggle, but then they got a lot of the money and skill from the French academy system. That's the same thing in the United States. Like get some people that are little on the down and outs in the suburbs of or the inner cities of anywhere in the country, you know. But that's not actually how it's built nowadays, right? There's AAU, it's all capitalized. You got to have money to go here, there, and there. But then there is this other system, which like supported by BJ Edgecombe and Beat are a part of it, where they were kind of plucked out when they were 14, and then taken to like high schools where they were put into like really intense systems to like become NBA players, and they are NBA players. It seems to have worked. So, what that means for the like political economy or them as people, though, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's why somebody like Jalen Brown is quite interesting and an outlier. And I think one of the reasons that he also gets attacked by the media in weird ways and like owner, is because like he's smart. He's not also willing to just like, I mean, I'm not here to like say, oh, this guy has like perfect politics or whatever, like whatever the fuck that means. But he is to use like a empty signifier, mostly like a free thinker, like, and he went to UC Berkeley. He's smart.
Perfect. Yeah.
He's able to talk about different things. He I think has said like some positive things, around, Palestine and so on and so forth. Like
He's
um
Muslim.
eh,
He's
he's Muslim, right? And he does a lot. I do know that he does a lot for the community, which I know is a thing that like that's such a that's also such a bullshit thing typically within NBA circles, right? It's like the team sets up these events and they go and they give away some stuff, and it's really just like branding and marketing and PR and all that kind of stuff. But from folks I know who are in Boston, like, they really believed, and people, when you're live in a city and you're around a franchise, like you can tell the difference between folks who just do that stuff just to fill some obligation for the team and people who actually genuinely do care about other human beings. Let's just put it that way, right? And
yeah.
Jalen Brown is definitely one of those dudes. But I do think that part of it is that, I mean, I don't know his whole history of it, but I feel like you used to have way more people like that because, like you said, you would have more folks who went to their public high schools, right? Who grew up in their neighborhoods, who had some kind of community connection. Whereas nowadays, it's so much you get sent off to a private school young and you get connected in with all of these different, a team of people to kind of make sure that you become an NBA player if you have that, talent and physical attributes and all the kind of stuff that are required to be in that even conversation, right? And yeah, a lot of these folks, yeah, they don't even go to their own high school, right? They go to some private school and they do, as you say, like the AAU system nowadays is just, in, I mean, one of the arguments for all the injuries nowadays is that players have been playing basketball basically year round since they were little kids, essentially, because that's kind of what you have to do to have a chance nowadays. The Hiram, and there was a little bit of discourse about Camden in the chat, and Hiram did make a good point that like it was a leverage move, in terms of them. I agree. I don't think that they were ever seriously considering moving the team to Camden, and I don't think that they probably felt like that would be a smart decision for them to do so. But it was to leverage the city to give them, more of what they want, which is what again these owners do, and that's typical also of just like developer real estate politics, as within the city
Well,
council
as you
and
as you know, in Tom with your guys right now, in
yeah,
Portland.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, Tom Dundon, yeah, I know the threats to move them to Kansas City, which would be terrible, but at the same time, I'm like, well, then I will just be a full-time Sixers fan if that happens. So, well, but that would be really sad for Portland, obviously, and for the state of Oregon. Let's see. So let's talk about. You want to talk about the discussion, like so, Windhorst and Simmons. I do think one thing to say about Simmons too that I've thought about quite a bit is like he is a Boston fan. And I do think there is also just a built-in. He's also of the age where those Sixers versus Celtics rivalries in like the late 70s and 80s, he would have seen, growing up. And that like there is an intense rivalry that's not talked about as much anymore between the Sixers and the Celtics. That's different than the Celtics versus the Lakers because they're in the same like division and conference, right? And so I do think that's an element of it, but it also is just like, dude, like, yeah. Do you have some of the quotes that he had?
Geez,
It's okay if not.
No. I think I was looking at Windhorst a little bit more.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I know he just has been like that he just couldn't believe it, right? And this is sort of the thing. And then one of the things that he said in his discussion was, "Oh, it made sense to me once I figured out that he was going to live in New York." Right? Which was like, I mean, you and I talked about this, but first of all, how many professional sports athletes actually live like right in the city that they play in?
Cooper DeJean is like the only person who like has an apartment or like in like a tower, but like everyone lives outside in one of their mansions. They trade mansions. Get Terrell Owens' mansion, in Morristown, New Jersey. It's all right.
I mean, I would say even nationally, the only instance in which that actually happens is basically when you have a city that's so large, like say Los Angeles, right, where it's just like sprawling, that there are these like neighborhoods or like micro components of it that are essentially like their own city, essentially. It's not, and maybe New York, because you could live in some penthouse apartment or whatever else, but like there's just not very many instances in professional sports in general. People are living, like you say, in mansions in the suburbs. So the idea that he would live in New York City is not like, it's an hour and 45 minutes away by car. Like,
I mean, I've booked it and gotten there in 50 minutes. So like, and that's like from like maybe like Ben Salem or something. Like you can get there super fast, right? A lot of people, I guess, I don't know, people outside the East Coast, they like, I don't know, when I pick places to fly out of, you have 5 places to fly out of. That's how I think of it. I take the Amtrak, it's like all the places like work together, feel very close. There's no like sense of like, this is someplace outside of it. There are extremely rich places in Bucks County. I mean, I would say I don't actually like the fact that we have so many like rich neighborhoods in the suburbs, from like places from Cherry Hill and like all the places around there, Medford. It's like the whole main line. The main line is like historically known as the place where extremely rich people live, and that nobody that's poor can afford to, and people like organize to like stop people from living there, stop any multifamily units from being built. Like so. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't. I guess they aren't from here, I guess, and or they would know that there's like old money. Philadelphia has old money. Like that's the difference between here and like Atlanta. It's like people here have been rich for generations.
Yeah, to speak to an Imperial 80s episode we did, Trading Places, right, which is all about the like old money, new money, like jokes and stuff like that. And there's all these references to main line and like the private schools and all that kind of stuff. And like that's the thing. I mean, like there was one of the rumors that was out there on the internet, and I have no idea whether this was true or not, but somebody like put it out there. They're like, oh, my family member works at the Baldwin School and he enrolled his daughter there, right? Like this was something that went, which like first of all is probably a violation of FERPA or whatever. But that was something that was going around, and I have no idea at all. Like, don't that's in the wild speculation, rumor mongering type place. Those are the kinds of things that we're circulating. But what I'm saying that is that there are a lot, like if he wanted to put one of his kids in an elite school in this area, like there are some of the most elite private schools
Yeah.
that super duper rich, billionaires put their kids in, right? And like they're not in the city limits, like you say, but they're not far, And so I think that that was a part too of like this idea that if he wanted to live in the Philadelphia suburbs, that like I don't know whether he'll choose to live in New York City or whether he would choose to live in the Philadelphia suburbs. But the Philadelphia suburbs, and this is not something to like, I agree with you, it's not something to celebrate,
No.
right? But they're as rich as you can find in, plenty of places.
Yes.
You could compare them to New York, suburbs, and you could compare them to Los Angeles suburbs and find that kind of wealth for sure.
Yeah, they're often the people's opinions that I have to care about because they will control our elections, and that's terrible. There's hundreds. There's like I don't, there how many there's like 150 municipalities with where $100,000 is the median income, per family. It's like, and that's just like in Chester, in the surrounding counties of Pennsylvania. That's not even including the ones that are in Jersey, So it's like, yeah, it's the thing that like, when you talk about like Philadelphia issues, it's like, well, like one of the reasons that like there's like this concentration of poverty in Philadelphia is because that people cannot afford to live in any of those places out in the suburbs. And then when we're trying to build any housing, we have to use this like median area income that puts the median income at 94,000 for a family of four. So then like I don't know, when we're like building any affordable housing or low income housing, it's like no, it doesn't really work out. No, it really doesn't work out because the median income we're doing it for is for people. I guess 50% of that gets you at like 50, 50 something or 48. Um, yeah, so it's like 48 like the median income of like, well, we know people that are making 30 grand or working part time or working on disability, and they need a place to live too. So yeah, anyway, those are the dynamics across the country, like from North Carolina, Detroit, all the places that are Wisconsin, Georgia, all the like middle income states that aren't New York and California, like constant like urban, suburban, rural, like honestly, just a knockdown, drag out battle of like whether the suburbs should even exist. And I don't know. No is my is my answer when that comes up. No.
No, well, it has been, I mean, they were designed, right, for like white flight and, segregation and to be able to pull the wealth of these billionaires outside of the tax base of these cities, and all of those things, right? So that is part of how capitalism is structured spatially, throughout the Philly area and like a lot, most other places. It's actually fairly rare when I mean, and I think that is part of what leads. I mean, frankly, both the Simmons and the Windhorse stuff, when I hear them say it, like it just sounds racist to me.
Yeah.
Like, it just sounds like why would anybody want to live in Philadelphia? Like, and what's baffling about it too, it reminds me a lot of obviously, a thing that went kind of viral and we made t-shirts about it around here and all that stuff is when, Trump said bad things happen in Philadelphia right during his first administration and everybody, around here of course loved that. But it's actually a very right wing kind of like fantasia of Philadelphia as this just incredibly dangerous, violent, poor, like anarchic in,
Yeah.
like all of these ideas that they have about the city, which, just are, I mean, whatever, like there is violence, there are those things, but I just don't, it's like a city, like any city that you live in. Like, I don't know. I've lived in New York, I've lived in DC, like they have their differences and so on, but like it's not, that concern about like safety and the sort of pearl clutching that people have about it is just not something that I've ever actually experienced or felt in any of these places, really. Um, and so it's always such a weird tell when you see it. But I think it's just that it just says Windhorse and Bill Simmons could never imagine it for themselves, right?
Yeah.
They can't imagine doing
Yeah,
that,
they
you
couldn't
know?
imagine moving to Philadelphia just by choice or just it's like, and I think that that's one of the things that's coming up here. So, and for, you know, it's also like a majority, well, plurality Black city. I mean, I feel like the population is going down over the years, but like there was a lot of white flight in the late '90s and early 2000s, and only recently has there been like an increase in population, but like yeah, the majority of the people here in Philadelphia are Black people. There are neighborhoods here that are just like it's like 99% Black people in this tract. It's like in North Philly, parts of North Philly, parts of West Philly, West Philadelphia. Born and raised, I feel like nationally, Will Smith is known for growing up there. But yeah, I don't know. We've got a lot of people are from Philly, from like Don Staley to Clea Cooper. Um, I Kyle Lowry and um, wait, waiters. I forget. Wait, what's his name? I forget.
Rasheed Wallace.
Rasheed Wallace from Philly. I mean, there's so many people that are from here, and from the neighborhoods, like and even from down in South Philly, Beanie Siegel. I don't know. Amber Rose is from South Philly. There's like a lot of people just are from here, and honestly, with Salifa, um, from from Fairmount, from around Fairmount, yeah. So I don't know. There are a lot of there are a lot of things. I don't know. There are a lot of people from here. A lot of Black people from here, and I think that I think I'm excited for Jaylen Brown to come here because Boston, for me, is just known as a pretty racist place, a pretty racist, anti-Black place. Got amazing Black organizing. Not going to say anything against that. I love them there. But in terms of like a place for like people, like historically known as like a freedom place for like Black people, this is the hub. This is the first place north of the Mason-Dixon line. This is the Abolition Society. This is William Still. This is where first Black church in 1790. Before antebellum. People were free in Philadelphia. Doing their thing. So I don't know. There's a lot of meaning to that for me, and I hope people like LeBron and Jaylen Brown can see that too. I mean, this is where BLA, Black Liberation Army, all the things we talk about. Mumia is in Pennsylvania, was organizing, was moved here. So with the Black Panthers too. So there's a lot here, and I'm just like I think I'm really excited for that because all the stuff that like maybe like some of the people like didn't really jive with Jaylen Brown in Boston, they're gonna love it here, and also there's a whole thing with here where it's like all the I don't know, I don't really mind the like I guess some of the like radio people. I don't know, they're the minority. They're like white Italian people usually, but like, and they're very much like we do actually have to work with them a lot and are in the same spaces. So it's not like we're like I don't know those people. It's not like they don't have to deal. It's like people in the South, they have to interact with Black people all the time. They just happen to use the N word as well.
So let's talk a little bit about because like one tweet I saw which really pissed me off, and I realized it was a partial joke. But somebody had tweeted out like, there's now a high probability, something like that. Like they weren't just saying this was like something that possibly could happen, but they were saying there's a high probability that LeBron's career ends with him being booed by Philadelphia fans. And I took umbrage to that because I was like that actually, in my view, I'm curious how you feel about it. That's a total misunderstanding of the Philadelphia fan, which is not to say that Philadelphia fans don't boo all types of shit, including Santa Claus and July or whatever. But I don't believe in any way that there's like any possibility that they will boo LeBron. Like
No,
I just can't see it happening.
no. I mean, we loved Iverson to the end. Iverson didn't win that much, but what people would respect was going all out every game. Even seeing like practice, we're talking about practice, it still comes up. But like every single game, he left it on the floor, right? And the step over is like everybody remembers the step over Tyronn Lue. It's like it's because he didn't have anything left, you know. He gave it all, you know. And I mean that's the sort of thing that like is like a very Philly thing where it's like if you're it's a gritty city, whatever. We got gritty as like our mascot for the Flyers, but like we're not like we'll be hating on bums that just sit out because they don't want to. They came here and like Andrew Bynum, they're like that's a bum, you know. Like I don't want to deal with those people. Bunch of people we always get here. They're at the end of their we get them on their last legs, and they're not going to try. And LeBron doesn't seem like that. LeBron just doesn't. We've had so many good people here though too. I will say this is probably a Philadelphia thing, but like when we think of like big cities or important places, I'm like, yeah, Philadelphia, of course. And then they like everybody would like leave us out of the top six, or they're like, yeah, DC, New York, San Francisco, LA, Miami. They'd be like, nobody. I will say they do leave us out of it. Chicago, and
Yeah.
like, no, Philly. Philly is the best. I think it's the best city in the world. I think Philly is better than New York. I love New York, but Philly is better. I lived in DC. I lived in San Francisco. They suck. Philly. I live here all.
But
This
see,
is where I
so
choose to live.
this is exactly the right energy, Sterling, and this is what I want to try to encapsulate or explain through my understanding of it as someone who's lived here for a long time, but it also is not from here. But it also has begun to embrace what you're talking about as well, because I think when I heard Windhorst and Simmons and they're just doing these like, why would he do this kind of things? It bothered me on multiple registers because one, I was like, if we're gonna have a serious basketball conversation, right? Like if that's a factor at all, then there's a great case. I'm not saying it's the only case, but like I think it was the best case, like in terms of a full being able to actually have a starting lineup and a little bit of a bench. I don't really think any other team had a similar case to make. You could say like maybe some people said, well, if he went to Denver or if he went to Wolves, like okay, like those are cases, but then that's a even weirder argument to me because if you're saying you don't want to live in Philadelphia, like why do you want to live in no disrespect to the people in the chat that might be from these places, but why do you want to live in Denver or Minneapolis? Like are we really suggesting that those cities are in some kind of like qualitative sense better places to live than Philadelphia for somebody? Like
Minneapolis
I
does
just
slap. Minneapolis sucks. It's the shit.
It's
But
cold as fuck,
it is
man.
cold as
Like
fuck.
I say this as somebody who lived in Maine for 4 years. Like there's you do not want to live in places like that because there's snow on the ground for 9 months a year and that gets really freaking old. Like it just does. As somebody who loves the winter. Um but that aside, like what you're talking about is very real, which is that, yeah, Philadelphia is one of the 10 largest cities. It has major sports teams. It has a good legacy of really famous players and superstars that have, like, it's won Super Bowls recently. It won a World Series. Not that, like, there's a lot of things. It's not like some place where nothing good ever happens. And look, again, somebody who grew up in Oregon, like it's been since 1977, folks, since we've had something, right? So like, since for my entire life, they haven't won, and have been close a couple of times. And I get it. There's a big difference between like Philadelphia and Portland. And I don't expect that LeBron would ever choose to go to Portland. Like I do understand that. But the way that Philadelphia is talked down to as though why would you consider that is strange to me, especially when I know Jaylen Brown didn't choose it, but he just got traded here, right? They had Paul George not that long ago. He chose it, right? Like it's a very it's like a very elitist discourse around LeBron. And maybe that's part of what they're saying, right? Is LeBron is a business, in a certain way. And does this make business sense for him to be in this place?
Well,
But
I,
I just
I
think that's a stupid argument to be making. Also, if your job is to talk about sports,
yeah,
that's more like what we would talk about.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of the discussions are pretty, they're like hyper capitalists too. They act as if like just because somebody did not take the most amount that they could get at the time, that it doesn't make sense. Like, or like James Harden, you can get like the most he could, and he's like, oh, Daryl Morey like cheated it out of like $100 million and didn't like renew his contract. There's like that kind of discourse, and it's constant, right? I I'm quite annoyed at this too, actually. Like I hear it's like I watch a podcast like Carmelo Anthony is talking about like it's really hard to live on 75 mil, you know? It's you're just like what? They're just like I don't know what to do about this. Also, there's this criticism of Jalen Brunson for like leaving $100 million on the table, and everybody's pocket watching. All these people that don't have championships are pocket watching Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson doesn't have to pay for a mill ever again in his life. He's the king of New York. Like maybe Carmelo, if like maybe you left some money for some other people on your team, you would have been that could have been you. Seriously, I think that's what's coming up for people. To tell you the truth, it's like that's not your life. That's not your life, Carmelo. You didn't win. You know,
No, he
whoever
did not.
wins in Philly, there like I have a feeling, especially because we want to talk about things like Black Muslim communities. Philly has got it. It's like one of those cities that's like people were ready. We're ready for a Black Muslim to be all out. We got LeBron. LeBron's gonna be doing stuff. It's like we're ready for Ramadan. No pork. Everybody knows if you're having any event, no pork, right? It's not a thing. I was just at Gerard College. It's like no pork to any children. No, it's like nah, no problem. No halal is not a problem here, right? It's like because it's like just this thing which we got to talk about. Maybe we'll talk about it on another session. But like I'm so interested in the whole thing of like when you're in the city, the difference between Black, Muslim, and Christian like gets kind of mixed together. And I've got relatives that have converted people. Many people have been incarcerated, so people like find community within the Muslim community while incarcerated. So like those are things that like I don't know. I am not Muslim. However, yeah, we still do a lot of Muslim practices just because you're Black into the city, and that goes out to like honestly anybody that's interested in freedom. They're gonna run into a few Muslim practices, which maybe that's why they're finding it a little dangerous. I guess that's why we're all on the list or whatever. But like, yeah, nah, Islam. I mean, and the fact that he is one here, that's gonna mean a lot to the people.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, the discourse about I mean, look, this is being heavily promoted right now. I feel like there's something about I mean, maybe part of it is just that now so many people are monetized on social media that they just want things that are like rage bait.
Yeah,
Um, and so they've like everybody's looking for every interview ever where a basketball player has talked about how it's hard to live off of X number of millions
yeah,
of
yeah,
dollars or whatever. Um, but it is I read it more nefariously as like this is just ruling class propaganda. Like it's just a billionaire millionaire discourse that is being circulated so much because they want people to actually say, oh well, you know, JJ Redick talked about how hard it was, Carmelo talked about like all these people who made millions and millions of dollars playing basketball talked about how difficult it was to the fact that they have to pay taxes, which like everybody fucking pays taxes. Like this is you're not special, right? And the amount of money that you get is just ungodly to most folks, right? Um so yeah, I mean there is that whole angle of it. But I mean I think even with LeBron, like any choice that he had this time, he had to kind of accept that he wasn't going to get a big contract because just of the way things were set up with the salary cap and like how old he is, even though he's still a really good player. He's not going to be somebody that teams want to like build around and make their top priority at this point in his career, being like 42, right? So, it's like you got a couple years left, hopefully, that you have a shot. And yeah, I mean, I also think the fit is really good, except on the thing I am concerned about is defense for the Sixers. I will be honest. I don't know. I do think there's some legitimacy to the discourse of like who are the guys who are going to defend on this team. VJ Edgecombe certainly will. Maxey will try. I think Jaylen Brown will definitely try. He's a decent defender.
They're talking
But
about Dean
LeBron
Wade.
and
I'm like,
Embiid,
I don't know if Dean Wade is going to be able to.
I know they're talking about him like he's Tony Allen right now. So that is a question, but I think like offensively, there's a lot of discussion about how much scoring and too much usage and all of these things. It's like, look, you have, most of the guys, especially Maxey and LeBron, are both very unselfish, and I just think the offense is gonna like be perfect. Honestly, like I don't see any issues offensively at all.
Yeah, yeah, and to like kind of throw like shade at it, I think it's just kind of like some sort of like psyop by Bill Simmons, who is like a Boston person that just wants us to fail. He's always wanted us to fail. He's always just kind of bragging on it, and he's got like I listen to the Ringer podcast, so like there's a bunch of people that are Sixers, that are Philadelphia people too, that are just like shouting out Aramingo Avenue, every podcast too. So I'm sure they have like it's fun in there, but generally, I find it like that's expected from him because he just is him, right? But like this thing where like Windhorse like is just saying it's weird or like I don't understand or this is a one-off chance, like that's I think that's what's really been pissing me off. Like I don't the way that he pocket watches, the way that he like honestly, right? They are making fun of him because LeBron called him weird because he's always trying to pretend like he's my best friend, that we went to high school together. He was there 7 years before LeBron was, but like he's followed him his whole career, and he kind of like is the guy. You're right. It's interesting that in response, like Windhorst said that like he's never said he was the LeBron guy. I think we can all say that that's false. He's always been the LeBron guy. Like, what's he talking about? He's the
But
one.
didn't he say he never said he was his best friend? Isn't that what he said?
That's not what we we all know what LeBron means when for 20 years whoever like when he went from Cleveland to Miami, went to Miami up to the Miami beat. When he went back to Cleveland, he was on ESPN Cleveland. He is the LeBron guy, right? And why? Because he's like, I want them to say He's at the same time, it's like that's why, you know. And you can say, I mean, he can say whatever. He can say whatever he wants, but like he has made his money off of. Well, this is what I would say. There are all these people that are making money off of their bodies, and I love when the players are just like, fuck you. I don't know that guy. That guy's weird. I love it. I love it, and that's like, and honestly, I feel like a lot of these things are that they need to take control of this stuff and say like, all these people that are trying to get money off of our bodies, it's fucking weird as shit.
I appreciate it, Sterling. I actually like Windhorse, but I do understand what you're saying. And you're totally right in terms of like how that stuff works in terms of like journalists that become. I mean, LeBron. I don't know if people remember this because it was so intense when he went to Miami, of like all of these people that were like the Cleveland LeBron people like being picked up and moved to Miami with him, basically just to be the LeBron whisperers and the voices. And it is interesting the way that there's a kind of like veneer of authenticity that is sort of built around them. I mean, Windhorse obviously has written books about LeBron. And it's like, yeah, I think I mean, he did backtrack in a couple of things, you know, and talks about, you're right. I mean, there's some of the things that I've heard him say. He's saying, "Oh, I was there the night that, you know, his son was born," and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, you were in the arena like the night that his son was, like, you were covering the team, you know what I mean? And it is true that, just broadly speaking, sports journalists don't have relationships, like real relationships with players, like friendly relationships. Like some of them do, you know. But that's also largely dependent upon the player and whether the player is like that type of person that's just like I will say, as a Blazers fan, Dame has that sort of reputation. Like everybody that covers the team has always loved Dame and always will say, like, you know, he's just super welcoming and like invites us to stuff and that, you know, that kind of stuff. He has that kind of community attitude, but certainly not every NBA player or star does that. And it also doesn't mean you're their friend, right? Like I also think it's also important to understand that, like, you know, they are still approaching this from as a basketball player, and like how they want to have whatever relationship they want to have with media or whatever. So
Yeah, and I guess that I get a little confused in like my in like where I feel I am when like they are so rich and they're millionaires, and like and I do see them as like kind of the gladiators of our society, but like they ultimately I think often are not on our side. I don't think that that like LeBron's gonna like advocate for something that actually helps working class or a revolution or anything. He benefits too much from it, and it needs to be stable for him to actually, you know, reap the benefits, right? They'll like transfer some a little bit and in the some foundation, but like not enough, right? He doesn't. If anything, people say like he makes too little, right? They're like in their minds, they are still making much less than the billionaires that they work for. So they're like, we are the victim. And when like all of us hear that, I'm like, I like that's when I'm like, I gotta turn this off, or I'm not gonna watch this again, right? Because I just cannot stand that from a person that like, you know, does like homeless outreach, like knows people that have died of like preventable diseases, stuff like that. It's like just because they couldn't get health care, it's like they, yeah, but like, but there is, you just need know that people are working on different levels because like there is, as soon as you are just kind of like you're like a 12 year old or something, there's going to be a bunch of vultures that are going to try to like monetize you immediately, and that's what our culture does. And like I think us being more real, more true about that, and like fine talking about like why, you know, why that's bad, why you need people to like make a decision. Like you could be 7 feet and not be a NBA player. You know, you don't have to be. You don't have to be like Wemby. Wemby like wants to be the face of the league. It's very interesting to see somebody that's so like, no, I will do it. I would love to be the best player that ever existed, and I want, you know, it's like great. Same thing with LeBron James. He wanted to do it. You know, other people, and Edwards, nah, he just wants to like chill out and like have too many babies. You know, but like you know, it's just like very interesting to see the way that people want to move and want to, and when, and it's just so interesting. Yeah, and it's like that thing. Also, it's like a lot of things with like, I think about black bodies. People, you're born into this body. It's like this thing you did not choose this, but having the abilities to do that and having the ability to affect the larger thing, it's like maybe some people do want to do that, you know, um, and take that leadership role and have a big impact on the world or something. It's a, you know, it's really amazing. So
yeah, I mean, the whole question of, I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about this over the years. I mean, obviously, you know, professional athletes, actually Eugene Purrier is one of the first people I really heard like talking about this, but you know, they represent in a certain way like some of the most powerful labor unions in the country, right? So you could make this kind of argument, right? Like that, um you know, they're able to pull down revenue sharing for the companies that they are in to like 50% among all the players and all that kind of stuff. Um, and they certainly are not, you know, wealthy to the degree of the owners and all of that. But I also think increasingly nowadays, though, especially today, that one of the things that we have to talk about, there's a couple of things, but one is just that, and you and I've talked about this, these players are invested in all kinds of terrible shit. Like they have these handlers, right, that come in often related to the team, financial advisors and so on and so forth that them invested in, Israeli technology or, you know, like slum, like all these kinds of just everything that, they're invested in capitalist enterprises, right, which are profit driven things. And a lot of times the things that drive the most profits are doing the worst shit, in the world. And they're a part of that at this point, right? Like I do think it's a little bit dangerous to talk about most NBA players in a strictly proletarian sense because even though they are workers and that big check that they're getting comes from their labor and they do have to deal with all of the commoditization of them, and do want to come back to that because that is another important point. um they still they basically join in with the ownership class in ways that I think, it's how a lot of them manage to stay exorbitantly wealthy. Not that they should ever spend through the kind of millions of dollars that they have, but because they build businesses or they become owners of large businesses, right? And LeBron is certainly an example of that. Like there are many businesses that he owns or has like a big stake in. Um, but the other side of that is this other thing, which is that somebody like LeBron, people have often made this argument, and I think it's like just empirically correct, that he's never going to be paid even when he was on like the most max contracts. It's nothing compared to the revenue and the value that he brings in to the team, right? Um, and even maybe this will bring in like kind of one of the other points I wanted to touch on, which is like what are the impacts of somebody like LeBron coming to your city? Like most players, even really, really great players like Jalen Brown, for instance, there's not really going to be any kind of impacts on the local economy in any way. Like it's just it's not going to change anything necessarily, right? Because maybe a few more people go to the game, like maybe the ticket prices are a little higher, you know, whatever. These are not major economic impacts in any kind of way. For LeBron, it's like interesting to look into because there is a financial impact and it's actually been studied. There's like Harvard studies on this and stuff like that. But it is much smaller than, or it is much more, it's basically like tourism based industries that are within a mile of the stadium that he most impacts, right? So like restaurants, local venues, places can go before, after games, hotels. Like, so it's essentially a bump in like kind of a tourism economy, which we know. I mean, also like there's a lot of great criticism of this from folks who live in global south countries where there's a heavy tourism economy. Like it's very captured by, again, like billionaires, and by private equity and so on. And so it's not something that by and large is going to positively impact the city or the people that live in it. Um, I do think it's interesting in some sense with LeBron because I do actually think among like one of the things that I recently saw is that Philadelphia is now in, I think, like the top 10 cities that Gen Z is moving to, which is a new thing. Like usually Philadelphia has not been a destination for, like it wasn't a real destination for millennials and in prior generations. I think a lot of this is just because New York is so expensive now and DC is so expensive now that those no longer really, I mean, there's still a lot of young people that try to move there, but it's a lot harder to make it work at all. Whereas Philly is a place that unfortunately, because this will mean gentrification, which is already a problem, which you can talk about because that's more your lane, really. Um, I do actually believe that this will impact gentrification in the city because I think it will make Philly more of a like a city that's in a conversation nationally in a way that's different versus like when he went to Miami, Miami was already Miami. You know, when he went to LA was already LA. Cleveland, he had already been to once, and I'm sorry, but people are just not going to move to Cleveland, I don't think, like that. Whereas Philly, I think even just the way they talk about it of like, you know, oh, he'll live in New York and he'll go to Philly, people will be like, well, I could do the opposite. Like, I like New York. I'll live in Philly and I'll get to see LeBron and I can I can go to, you know, work in New York or see New York or whatever. And I do worry about that just from a city that already has a lot of housing struggles, which I know that you're very much involved in.
Yeah, I mean, I, I'd agree that this really does put um, a target on us as a place to be and to move. There has been a lot of people moving here. Honestly, I feel like so many people have like kind of found Philly, um, and I do think it becomes like a little bit of. I think about like I guess how capital kind of puts like probably like secondary cities in competition with each other, and those are cities that are looking to move up, right? Um, and like we're one of those places that's I'm thinking of places that have moved up in the 2010, like maybe Tampa, St. Petersburg area, Austin. It's like and having Oklahoma City. It's like having these sports teams is like a part of that, like raising the profile of it, having a large star where a lot of people are coming. It's like all of that stuff is like part of raising the profile of a place. And I would say Portland like is one of those places that really moved up in the 2000s. I had never thought of moving to Portland before, 2000 and
Portlandia?
Portlandia and all that stuff. Seriously, yeah. I mean, Portland was a lot of people moving to Portland as like it's. I think Seattle's an interesting place because it's like Seattle's so expensive and you just can't move there because it's so expensive. And but like a lot of new people are moving to places like Texas and go to San Antonio. It's probably going to pass Philadelphia soon as like a place and population. Um, and we're seeing a lot of a few, not a lot, but just like a few other like I feel like some of these like smaller cities, well, thought of to be smaller cities, are like actually some of the largest cities in the country in Florida and Texas um, that are bigger than Philadelphia. That will be bigger than Philadelphia too. So um, I just I'm quite worried about it because Philly has fought back against gentrification. I know I say that it's a problem here, but I mean, I've been to DC and I know and you just can't live there. It's not a, it wasn't an option for me. So, um,
I we lived we when we lived in DC, we lived in someone's basement because that's how like expensive it was, you know. And it was it was awful. I fucking hate DC, by the way.
I,
I mean, shout out to people who like I not talking about like Anacostia, Southeast, like some of the different areas of DC where like real people live, but the area that I lived in DC, which was Mount Pleasant, it just was like, you know, I mean, there was some like you know, public housing, a couple places and stuff like that. But aside from that, it was just fucking like defense contractors, like lawyers, like people who work for the government. Like, as I just was like, this is hell. Like, it
yeah,
was, it was so
yeah,
bad for me.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
It was a fun place to visit because you know you can go to like if you like museums or whatever, like you can do all that stuff. But living there, I feel for anybody who lives in DC.
yeah, and I'm like, I got to find some good people that are doing organizing in DC that are black too. That I know I feel like I'm on some people, but they're more anarchisty. But like, I don't know. My experiences there, every time I go down there, it just feels like a dark energy. And even, and I feel demotivated by talking to like my senators, like McCormick and Fetterman, who are like just some of the worst people ever and very disingenuous to your face. They'll say, like, oh, yeah, I really care. And then we'll just look to cut people off from Medicaid or do whatever it is necessary to like, support, the data centers that are like making people's lives hell and also like putting that on the backs of all the poorest people in our state. So yeah, it's I don't know. It always feels so so negative. But
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so Leah, shout out to Leah, another Philly resident here, but Philly is working class, but people have already been priced out. My grandma bought her house in South Philly in the 40s, and the cost to live on that same block where I also grew up is crazy. Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, and that was the reality that you were talking about earlier. I think was really important because you're talking about that from the context of somebody who, because you organize around housing, you have been in a lot of conversations with the city and so on and so forth, and developers over the years, not on like the same side of the table, but on the other side, and arguing about, and they're telling you, well, market rate, and we do, this percentage of, median income and all of this kind of stuff. And folks might not understand that, but like there are a lot of people who work in Philly that, yeah, like you said, might be 30,000 for a family of four or something like that, right? And it's just they're like not in the same. They're priced out of these areas that they have lived for a long time, and that is the other thing, is that there are huge working class neighborhoods. But even like where my mother-in-law lives, like I've watched it over the last, gosh, 20 years now. Um, and it's totally different. Like 20 years ago, we knew everybody who lived on that block, and they had been there for a very long time, and they were all like just working class people. And now what happened is like most of those people either became landlords and rented, or they sold their places, which is more likely the case. They sold their places to landlords who then rented and subdivided, right? And so now it's like every house is a set of apartments that, but what they're absorbing is the folks who have been gentrified out of other neighborhoods, right? So it's like, they're row homes, right? But they're being moved out of like the Temple area, right? And then they're moving further up and stuff
I
like that. And
I don't think people even understand like what's happening. Like across the street from me, like there is a row home that has been cut up. So the bottom floor and the basement are like 1700, and then basically the top floor, just the top floor, is 1300. And I'm sure maybe that's cheap in like a New York term, but like for here, just a floor in a row home.
it's very cheap in New York terms, unfortunately. And that's part of the problem, right? Is that people are coming from cities like New York and are like, hey, that's great. Like I could get it. Like I remember in 2005, no, 2006, somewhere around there, like we were paying $1,100 a month for like a closet in New York, basically. Like it's just, yeah. So
But
anyway.
yeah, that's the reality in Philadelphia. I mean, I feel, and it's like they all um, have been organizing on their end through like rent price fixing. So then you'll be in an area and you can't find something for below a certain amount. That's just, I would just say we just need to organize better and also figure out the laws to like sue them to do that. But it's like that takes a long time. People need housing now. So I will say I do think that this, there's something about this that says that people are living outside of the law. That's just like what's necessary to survive. And that's the current fights that we're gonna have to be in. I'm hoping that I don't know how we get to some of these other people that are like, I don't know, maybe like Jalen Brown or somebody that it's like people that are squatting in houses probably already lived there. They probably just couldn't afford it. Um, there's so many um, different situations that people are in that just put them outside of the realm of like of legal, and it puts them in like just such a precarious like set of circumstances that makes them open to violence, makes them open to other types of exploitation, makes their children open to exploitation. And that's the sort of thing that's why we need rent control. That's why we need all sorts of like consumer protections on all these things. It says like, no, it's like, well, if you can't really put enough money into the house, then like either we help you do it so it becomes a thing and it just becomes part of the city, and it becomes public housing, or you got to get rid of it, right? So um, I don't know. That's just what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Nobody wants to talk about that though. I don't know.
um, Hiram brought up, and I think this is true. A couple other people were talking about. Leah is kind of talking about it as well. That LeBron's presence, I mean, helps, right? Like helping a bad thing, but helps the development project planned by Xfinity, Sixers, Eagles owners for the area. Gentrification will eventually hit that area hard, and I think that's part of it. I mean, they're going to build a new, you know, arena down there. The Sixers will. They're building a whole set of they'll just continue to develop that complex, and it is an area where obviously there's a lot of residents around that area. But it's also an area that's like, I don't know. You live in South.
Yeah,
I, you know, my wife has a thing of like, I don't go down there because she's from North Philly and she's like, I don't fuck with South Philly. But she doesn't go down there usually unless we're going to, the arena. Um, and, but
yeah.
yeah, I mean, what are your
That's
thoughts on the
that's
regional, that part
that's.
of the city?
I mean, the local politics of it is that like those areas, like they may get gentrified with like extreme luxury housing, but down there it is basically the suburbs, and there are basically the most conservative people in the city live down there. I think that's what happened when even when we were in going after the Columbus statues, like it's in like conservative territory, so it's like that's in their home. So we were like kind of going deep. It'd be different if it were like up in North Philly or up in the black parts of South Philly, but like I mean, it's just segregated, and it's like it's territory that you feel safe in. It's like in Point Breeze, they've attempted to gentrify it, and it's still majority black. It's still all the pressures that have been on it have not really gone that it just hasn't completed. I mean, they said that it's going to be done since for 10 years, but it just hasn't happened. And I think I don't know that's a little bit of the resistance of Philadelphia, and not like organizing. I mean, just like I don't know. Um, we just remain to be like not a place that people want to go. That just remains little grittier, a little dirtier. I've had people come to my neighborhood and then they're like trying to tell the people to get off the corner or whatever, and it's like it never seems to work. They're still going to continue to do their thing. Yeah, that's just how it goes. The people that rule the neighborhood, they ruled the neighborhood for decades. So that the organized groups that have been here, and we've got old heads around here that know those people too. So I mean, they're in charge. I'm not in charge. They're in charge.
Yeah, I mean, I should say to clarify, my wife's thing is mostly about the South Philly Italians and like the what is it, why am I blanking, the Pats and Genos and like that, that whole scene is
Well,
not
that's not,
her scene
and
at
that's
all.
I don't even live there. I live in South Philly, and I live very far away from that. I live on the
Yeah,
west side, that's towards West Philly and Southwest, and that's it's like we're talking about a totally different place. And when you get and the stadiums are really far away from where I live too. So it's like it's interesting to think about the gentrification that could happen around there because like there's not it's a whole separate area. I think there's definitely gonna be like apartments that are built as part of the complexes, but like where people are don't live down there anyway. Um, so I don't know. They've been trying to remove
yeah.
us for a long time. It doesn't seem to work.
Well, hopefully not. And I mean that's the other thing that I think we didn't really finish. I started my thoughts on this, but I kind of think I got distracted somewhere, which happens a lot. But is just that gritty attitude, pun intended to some extent. Is I think that so for I've talked about this a few different times, but it used to be weird to me when I encountered Philly fandom. Like I didn't quite know how to read it. I think you and I have talked about this a little bit, maybe in a prior conversation as well, of the kind of animosity that Philly fans seemed to have for everybody, right? Because I always looked at it like, okay, you're supposed to hate your rivals, right? You're supposed to hate the team that, you know, that is the team that, like if it's the Yankees, it's the Red Sox, vice versa, right? If it's the Lakers, the Celtics, like that kind of thing. But I would find that energy from Philadelphia fans towards anyone. It didn't matter if it was the fucking Kansas City Royals or, it was the Kansas City Chiefs or, it didn't matter. It had nothing to do with the location the place was from necessarily, although of course there was like particular animosity towards Boston, towards New York, which I didn't really understand the Boston thing back then, but I do now. Um, but it just surprised me because I was like, well, this team is not even in the same conference as you, right? They never think about you in that thing. But actually my wife said something to me recently about that. She was like, well, that's it right there, is that they never think about us. Right. And so it's that overlooked. It's the fact that, the same thing that Windhorst and Simmons are saying of like, this is unbelievable. Why would he do this kind of thing? It's this mentality that Philadelphians pick up on from pretty much the country, right? Of how the country looks at Philly. And it's not that it's not that Philadelphia fans are just a certain way, but they're just like, fuck you because I know what you think about us. Like, and it is the Jason Kelsey, of course, um, brother-in-law to Taylor Swift. um, you know, famously had his whole Super Bowl drunken rant where he sang the, no one likes us, we don't care song, right? And like that that definitely captures something from Philly. Although I would say y'all do clearly care because it is a like there is a caring there that nobody likes, but it's also a recognition and like a fuck you, you know. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and I guess to be clear, I did grow up outside of Philly. Like my family's from here. My family's from West Philly, but like I grew up and probably the end of the main line and probably towards like yeah, it's just out there. But um, but that's just like kind of the attitude like around the area. I will say it's like this isn't a place that people usually think about when they think of the like most popular places to visit. Um, so um, you know, I just remember being with some friends around there in DC. There are some diplomats, and they were talking about how much they love New York, and they're in DC, right? So like they skipped over Philly, right? Or they stopped in Philly, and they were like, oh yeah, not much was there, right? So they just like they went straight to New York, told me how great it was. I'm coming from Philly. I like have left DC. I don't like it, and I just have these people tell me how much they love New York and how they just will go over and over again. And but there's a whole city between those two cities that everyone's just forgetting, and they're just looking at me in my face, and they're like, "Well, where should I go there?" I'm like, "We have everything. What do you mean? We have like command center. It's
Th-
like there's great concerts. We have art. We got food. We got everything. What do you mean?"
I mean, I will say Philadelphia food culture is fucking amazing. Like, there's a lot of it now that at my getting a little older, like I can't eat all of the shit that I used to eat from here. But it's a really unique, and I genuinely mean that, food city. I mean, obviously everybody knows like the Philly cheesesteaks, right? Like that's kind of like, but like water ice, hoagies, like it's also, and unfortunately I think we're losing this a bit, but for a long time it was a very affordable food culture too.
Yeah,
Where like you could just go to a corner store and, get a hoagie and a soda for $1.50 or $2 or whatever. Like, that those days are gone, unfortunately. But it's like one of the best that way. And I've lived in a lot of, and like, I mean, New York does have a nice food culture because there's like so many different, it's such a melting pot, like to use that term, but like so many different cultures in the city and so on. But you kind of have to you have to know the spots and all that. And I mean, I guess to some extent you do in Philly too, but it's just, I don't know. I think that's one of the most underrated aspects of it. Like DC does not have that at all. Like no way. Like not even, it's not even comparable, you know. And neither are, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I live in a place that has like the Southeast Asian neighborhood, the Southeast Asian market, the Hispanic market down every single every single every weekend in the in the summer is amazing. So I don't know. I think that there's just a lot. There's this. I mean, and you can go to. I mean, I will say everybody has their favorite places just to get a cheesesteak or a hoagie. But like you can just get it from your corner store. It's usually the quality is usually pretty high. Just around the city. Well, especially places that have been open for a while, and that sort of thing is like um, just like some of the places, like thinking about like food and like food justice stuff. Even there's been a few different people that have tried to like take advantage of that and say like, hey, let's keep these open. Let's have good food here. Like we've got infrastructure for this. Why aren't we doing that? You know? And I think I don't know. I feel like that's sort of stuff that is really missed about Philly, um, because it's like I don't know. This city was built in a way that like, or I can't you can't even park a car on my street, right? So you have to park it up on the sidewalk. It's like this everyone's so packed in here, and it's a little different than any of the places in maybe like I feel like Detroit or some of the places that even have like wide street. It's just like the geography is just like it's so packed in, and there's a little store on every single corner, and you just get your stuff there. Yeah.
that's my one. If there's one significant thing I could change about Philly, it would be to give it a really dope public transit system. Like, I just don't think I'm gonna say SEPTA doesn't. I mean, look, I use it, but I wish it was much better and more extensive.
Okay, that's fine. But I will say air conditioning on SEPTA, top tier. It's cold as shit. It's great. They keep that thing and on frozen. So I appreciate that. I love my buses. They go everywhere I need to go. So I support it. It's a walkable city. You can also ride your bike so many places. There's so much flat land. I don't know. I mean, now this is just a We Love Philly podcast, but um, yeah, I
Is
don't know.
this, first of all, Poncho? Is this real? Like, did you actually we're actually getting advertisements for Philly during our discussion? They're like, "This is great. Millennials has turned to fucking
That's great.
propaganda for." I
Well, I mean,
promise none of
we
this has been
do
paid.
have history here, though. Also, it's like stuff with like the Washington House. Like, why this was the capital of the city, and it's like, Washington had like his people that he enslaved here with him, and we have the Trump administration that's trying to erase that, and there's a fight going on with that. But that was a bunch of organizing from like people that lived in the city that wanted to say that like, yeah, this is Washington's house, the first president of the United States that the so-called United States, and he had people that were enslaved and that tried to escape, and let's like honor their names here. It's like, and we just have places like that where there's like so much history uh, that just exists. All the archives of different places. There's a bunch of Quaker archives in at Haverford and Bryn Mawr and Swarthmore. It's like these places that just have so much deep history of or at least this country. Um, and I don't know, I really think that it's a special place. It's like, and when W. Du Bois like wrote on the Philadelphia Negro, it's like I don't know, I go to South Street, that's like 20 blocks that way. I don't know. There's so many things like that where it's like if I want to go to Mother Bethel Church, like yeah, I was like I could read about it in the book, or I could just go and you know, or talk to whether it's UNIA building or Malcolm X's old house or stuff like that. It's just like they're just around. It's just around. I mean, it's honestly being destroyed, and I think that is like a problem because people do not take Black Philly history sites like seriously enough. From Paul Robeson's house to Fox Strath's to like the Tanner House, stuff like that. Like our comrade Chris Rogers is doing all that work, but like there's so much here that is just like this Black history that just around you, all around you, that I don't know, makes you feel really proud. I'm gonna say when I lived in San Francisco, didn't have that feeling. I felt like shit. It's like you have to go to Oakland to get that good feeling. And there's nothing like being in a place where it's like, yeah, a lot of my people are from here and we've done a lot of shit here and we deserve to be here. And people that are going against us, it's like we're gonna organize together like we always have. And talk about fascism, yeah, there's been fascism forever for Black people. So it's like not that big a deal. I mean, all the people that live here, it's like they've been through. Oh my God, they've been through the 60s and 70s and 80s, and all the people that still live here down here in South Philly. It's like you meet some of the older people. They've been through a lot. They love Philly. They're not going to leave. But like, try to teach them doing harm reduction here. I was thinking about Lawrence Grand Prix about that stuff, and it's like you try to like have some harm reduction people talk to some people that have been in Philly. It's like, yeah, the people in North Philly, they know, they're aware. They're aware of like the brutality of everybody from Frank Rizzo to like Lynn Abraham that put so many people on death row, and on felony murder and secondary murder. That like there's a whole industry like trying to get people off, and thank goodness some of those people are coming home, and and thank God that we kind of turned that around. But like that's because there's like a well of Black organizing of people that are inside that honestly I feel like I cry every time one of them speaks because they've been there. Vici Scott was in there 50 years. Like this stuff in VC Stevie is out. It's like it's great that these people are out and that there's so much organizing in Philly that is about doing that. And I know that not everybody's here, but like and sometimes you get like views from a really high level, but when it's on the ground, I love these people in Philly. It's like I learned so much from them, and I feel like I wouldn't trade it. And I just happen to have family that this was the first city that we came to, so that's like kind of why I have a connection here. But yeah, like, I don't know, other people might love somewhere else, but I love it here. I love it here.
I'm not from here, but I do as well, and I mean, and that's part of, honestly, it's one of those things of like it probably is part of what bothered me about this sort of like, his decision being Philly and people being like, well, why would anybody do that? And I'm like, well, I actually, our family, we chose that this was where we wanted to, when we finally got tired of fucking moving around and doing stuff, like, this is a great place to be, and yeah, we have turned into a fucking real estate commercial for Philadelphia throughout this whole thing, but it's a great city. Oh, you just muted. I think you unplugged yourself or something.
I think one of the things I do find like that probably is, it just feels like maybe it's just like not within white culture, is this like the fact that we've had like 4 Black quarterbacks in my lifetime. It's like they've been amazing, or maybe 5, from like Randall Cunningham to McNabb to Vic to Rodney Peete to Jalen Hurts now. It's like that's like it feels like so Philly to just like have those people, I don't know, at least bucking like whatever that idea that like black men can't be the quarterback of the team and must have some sort of deficiency or something. And it's just like I don't know, we're gonna have like a pretty dark skinned team. I don't know, I'm a little excited by that. There's a bunch of people that are like, I don't know, don't seem to be like there's no Euro, at least not yet, right? I don't know. We'll see. Whoever, I guess they might get Coven Love, but maybe not. It'd be great if it was just top starting 5, all dark skin starting 5. I think that I don't know, that just goes to the city, and of course we'll just all love that.
It's also fairly unusual in today's NBA, really, like, just because of the the proliferation of like European players, that I mean, you look at the fucking Lakers.
Look at the Lakers. Look at, I feel like the Denver Nuggets were pretty. Well, I mean, it's like I don't want to even be negative about it, but it is the thing of which you'll have to talk about this sometime, where it's like, yeah, there were the black players that often were, they get a lot of money, and they see white people as having more high value, so then they are with those white women, whether it's a Tiger Woods type of person, or there's so many interracial marriages that they seem great, but there can be just this feeling of like, why isn't a black woman good enough for any of these players, and I know that that's not the case, that's not the individual case for everybody, but if it happens so much, it does make you kind of think, and you see the children of those people then becoming the sports stars. So then there are a lot of I don't know, a lot of people that don't have 4C hair, it's like, at least, so it's like, and that's, I don't know, I'm gonna say I feel a certain type of way of it, and I know that it's like not against them, but it is good to see people that are like, yeah, we love being black, we are black. LeBron James, it's like, married to his high school sweetheart for a long time, so it's like, and maybe I'm just buying into it, but I think that matters. I think it matters. He loves his black wife. I think that's good. The best basketball player of all time loves his black wife and has stayed with her, and is a good guy. Now I'm gonna say that all the time now, because he's so, yeah.
We were asked for restaurant recommendations. I'll give 2. You can give 1 if you want. I'll give 3. So one I would give is Ishkabibbles. Another one would be D'Alessandro's. Those are mainly if you want like steaks and hoagies and stuff like that. And then I would also throw out for a Chinese food, if you like really spicy food, Han Dynasty. So those would be my 3 Philly choices. What do you got, Sterling?
I'm down here in South Philly, and there's Hardena. Hardena is like the kind of popular Indonesian restaurant that everyone goes to. And then there are like, I don't know, you kind of start at Hardena, and then there are like many others that you kind of like talk to the owners there. It's a family. It's like, it's gotten pretty popular, but Hardena is really awesome. And then I like, we have a bunch of Mexican pizza places down here, which are pretty awesome. I don't know, I go to San Marcos. It's got like, you just get the chorizo, the pizza on it. Chorizo on pizza. Usually, I don't know, maybe something sweet, peppers or pineapple or something like that. But yeah, that's what we're doing down here. Yeah.
Right on.
I love South Philly more than I would say West Philly is. I would, maybe I'll go against your partner, and like I think South Philly is the best.
Well, she would say north, right? Like, so she also doesn't. She does work in West Philly, but she doesn't like West Philly at all either. So
yeah, I don't really like West Philly, and then West Philly people don't even cross the river. They always they're like, they don't go anywhere. They just stay over there. So every time it's a river, but it's very far. And I guess that's what people should know, is that the places are very close, but they seem so far away. In terms of
this is again me like being if we had a better public transportation system, none of this shit would feel so far apart from each other.
I'll give you that. Yeah, it wouldn't feel so far away.
We're in cars too fucking much in this city. That's my complaint.
That's a good point. If it didn't take me like 40 minutes to go 6 miles, I might have a different viewpoint of it. Seriously, in the city, it takes 45 minutes. I could get to New York from Bensalem in 45 minutes. I can't get to Overbrook in 40. It's like stuff like that drives me crazy.
No, for sure. I mean, it's like, we're we're slightly north of North Philly, so it's like, yeah, for us, it's like everything is West Philly out, or if you, God forbid, we have to go out to like the suburbs in west of West Philly. It's like
Yeah.
it's like a 2-hour journey. So
It's so
all
wild
right.
too because you can get anywhere. You can go so many places in 2 hours. You could go. You could
I
go.
could get to New York, but I
You
could
could go to
also
New
go to
York
the
in
fucking
2 hours.
suburbs on the other side of Philly.
Like, why would you go to some random place in Delco when you could go to New York in 2 hours? But yeah, no, I'm glad we had this conversation. I feel like I'm glad LeBron is here. I think there are many reasons for LeBron to come to Philly. I'm glad Jaylen Brown is here. I think it's gonna really change the vibe generally. At least having like a Black Muslim like best player, Tyrese Maxey is gonna be like, just seems like he's a good vibe too. So there are a bunch of like black male people that like people can really get behind it in this city, which I think would be totally different if they were white. I think this city is like kind of prime for that. And when I say that, I mean like ask a grandma in East Oak Lane about Jalen Hurts. You better not say anything negative. Who freaking yeah? I'm just saying they'll protect Jalen Hurts with his life, and that's what they'll do for you here if you treat them right. I mean, that's like for life. I think there's so many Jalen Hurts. I mean, I'm like that too. I love Jalen Hurts, and he's so cute.
He's like the Obama of the city in some ways, but yeah,
He's
I don't
kind of.
know. Yeah. But that'll be interesting because him versus LeBron now becomes like it's gonna become a real, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, well,
um,
and the white Philadelphians get to root for the Phillies, for the white guys there. So
yeah, they
it's
love
great.
that. They love the big beards and the long hair and like the the Phillies it's so funny. Like if this should be a different episode, but we just like break down sports culture and like pull up all the images of all these freaking athletes locally and stuff like that. It is really funny. Some of that stuff. But so let's close with a prediction. So what is your prediction for the Sixers this year? Win total, and how far do they go?
Oh boy. I think they got a kind of like 52, 52, 53. I think they're gonna try to rest during the season. They usually go through spouts of just losing like 10 games in a row, and but nobody really cares that much. The goal is to win the championship. That's it. And I do have a feeling that they are going to get to the conference finals. But I mean, we didn't even talk about this, but I mean, the Nova Knicks and Jalen Brunson and the way Josh Hart and those people are from around here too. So it's I don't know, it's kind of hard to root against Villanova when you have rooted for Villanova for so long and you love those guys. Mikal Bridges is from Philly. He's from Philly. Okay, I
I
don't know.
don't think it's hard to. I don't think it's hard to root against them at all.
Okay, well, I think I'm from the suburbs, so that's why I probably like Nova more than other people. But yeah, I love those guys because they're just such, they like literally look like people that you grew up with that are just like from around here. Josh Hart is like, I know that guy, you know. Uh, so it's like, but I'm gonna say, I can't say that they're gonna win. I can't predict them. You know what? I can't jinx it. Another thing is, this is a magical place. I believe everything. This is a place of like superstition and curses, and there's no way I'm gonna curse my team by saying they're gonna win the championship. No way. So I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen, but we are gonna have a good year. I think people are gonna stay healthy. I think the vibe is gonna be really good. I think Jaylen Brown's gonna have an awesome season. I think he's gonna be the freaking talk of the town. He's handsome, and he's smart, and he's beautiful, and he's Muslim. So that's what I predict. That's what I predict. But I'm not gonna curse my I'm not gonna curse my team like that. It's fucking beautiful. Yeah, I was saying we need a little bit more. Why these boys are beautiful kind of vibe on MAKC. So that's what I'm bringing. They're freaking beautiful, freaking handsome,
Always appreciate it.
freaking
You
handsome
know, in the
team.
in the chat talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger on on Monday.
This is such a handsome team. Just like Jaylen Brown, Maxey. They've got great smiles. BJ, the vibes. These are you want to. Are these guys married? You know, it's like what's going on? What are they doing? Hook them up with your daughter or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what we're doing. Maybe we're going. Maybe that's too far. But like, you know, Jalen Hurts. These are great guys. I think that's why that's why all the grandmas like them. They're like, yeah, what are you doing? Go up to the go up to the to wherever they're at and see what you know. They won't even. They're not at the club. They're at the autism at the autism you know benefit. You know, go wear something nice and go talk to them. You know.
This is not happening, Hiram. I will just say this right now, and I know we're going to talk about this. You and I will get on the phone and rap about it, but I will say the Sixers are not getting swept by the Knicks again. Like I will go if it happens, the jinx is on me. That's fine. Everybody can
Got
come.
LeBron.
I'm just saying it's not going to happen. And I also think it would be very interesting because, of course, this is one of the things that was talked about was how the Knicks fans basically probably did outnumber the Sixers fans in those games in Xfinity Arena. I don't know why. Fuck Xfinity in the Sixers arena. And that did not go over well in Philly. It again makes sense. They're making that short trip from New York to Philly. They have more money than people in
They
the
have more
city
money
do.
than us.
So
They have more
yeah,
money.
they have more money.
That's just what
But
it is.
But now what you're going to have is all these LeBron stands that have millions of dollars from around the country flying in and rooting for the Sixers. So that'll be a weird dynamic too. They won't know that we say you suck after every player gets announced on the other team. They won't know
Yeah.
the culture and the vibe of how we root for teams around here. So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know what'll happen, but my prediction will be I think that there's always a lot of variables, right? Because health is a key factor on every team, including the Knicks, right? But I would predict that the Sixers probably would lose in the conference finals to the Knicks this year. But I think it would be at least a 6-game series. That would be my prediction. I don't think that I don't think they have enough depth to be a championship team, and I don't think they have enough defense. But I think they could win a couple games against the Knicks for sure in a series. That's what I see. So
I love the vibes right now. So it's all gravy to me. I thought we weren't even gonna have a season. I thought it was gonna be Joel Embiid and the two young bucks just like chilling out. I thought that's what I thought in April. Now we got Jaylen Brown. Okay, let's go. It's all gravy. And I love Hiram the Knicks. I don't know. I just don't hate. I hate so many other people more than New York people.
we should also say Hiram lives in Philly, right? So I know, like I know and I get it. Like again, I appreciate the as somebody who still roots for the Blazers all the time. I do appreciate the dedication to the team, but he should be excited for Philly right now.
They will have to get used to kind of the harshness, the harsh talk, kind of like direct talk of like a Philly person. I will say, people from other parts of the country, I don't know, they react really poorly to us. But like, there's nothing like two people that are on the same wavelength in Philly, you know, and it's like they just vibe, you know. Even though you told each other to go fuck yourself, fuck each other, you know, fuck yourself, you know. But like, you know, in that loving way, you know. Yeah.
Right on. First of all, there are 82 games in a basketball season. Okay. And second of all, Embiid and LeBron could sit all 82 and the Sixers would win, 48 games anyway. Like, so what are we talking about? All right. Anyway.
Okay.
All right, man. This was great. Thank you. Next time we'll actually do some, this is a real problem. I can't afford tickets anymore too. I'm also upset about that. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Next time we do a Philadelphia portal, we'll make sure to do something more organized-y, serious, probably. But or maybe we'll just become a Sixers podcast and do something after every game. All right. Thanks,
Right.
Sterling, man.
Bye.
Yep.